The yellow school bus pulled up to the grand entrance of Westlake Preparatory Academy, its wheels crunching on the perfectly maintained gravel driveway. 16-year-old Zara Williams peered through the window at the sprawling campus with its ivy-covered brick buildings and manicured lawns. Her stomach twisted into knots. "Last stop, Westlake Prep," the bus driver called out. Zara was the only student left on the bus. All the other kids had their own drivers or rode to school in shiny cars with their parents. She adjusted her simple backpack, took a deep breath, and stepped off the bus. This wasn't her choice. Her father had insisted she transfer here halfway through the semester, claiming it would open doors for her future. Zara would have much rather stayed at her old public school with the friends she'd known since childhood. "You need to experience different environments," her father had told her last week over their weekly Sunday dinner. "And it's time you understood all aspects of our world." Zara hadn't argued. She rarely did with her father. He worked too hard to give her a good life, and the least she could do was try this new school, even if it meant starting over. The school's main office was housed in a building that looked more like a small castle than a place where teenagers learned algebra. Zara checked in with the secretary, a woman with kind eyes who handed her a schedule and a map. "Your first class is American Literature with Ms. Chen in Building C, room 215, the secretary said. "Do you need someone to show you around?" "No, thank you," Zara replied. "I can find my way." She followed the map across a courtyard where students gathered in small groups, talking and laughing before the first bell. Zara noticed immediately how everyone seemed to be wearing an unofficial uniform, designer clothes, expensive watches, and bags that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. She glanced down at her plain jeans, white sneakers, and simple blue t-shirt. Zara had plenty of nice clothes at home, but today she'd chosen comfort over style. Now she wondered if that had been a mistake. As she walked, conversations quieted. Eyes turned to follow her. Zara kept her head high, her face neutral, just as her father had taught her. "Never let them see what you're feeling," he always said. "Your emotions are yours alone until you choose to share them." She found Building C and climbed the stairs to room 215. The classroom was already half full when she entered. Zara handed a slip to Ms. Chen, who smiled warmly. "Class, we have a new student joining us today," Ms. Chen announced. "This is Zara Williams. Zara, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?" Zara turned to face 20 curious stares. "I just transferred from Douglas High. I like reading and architecture." "Very nice," Ms. Chen said. "Please take any open seat." The only available desk was near the back next to a window. As Zara made her way down the aisle, she heard whispers. "Is she on scholarship?" "Has to be. Look at those clothes. Diversity admit, obviously." She pretended not to hear as she settled into her seat and took out her notebook. The girl in front of her turned around, looking Zara up and down with narrowed eyes. She had perfect blonde hair, expertly applied makeup, and a tiny diamond stud in her nose. "I'm Madison," the girl said, her voice sweet but her eyes cold. "Welcome to Westlake." "Thanks," Zara replied simply. "So, Douglas High? That's in the east side, right? The rough part of town?" Before Zara could answer, Ms. Chen called the class to attention and began discussing Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Zara had already read it twice and loved it. When Ms. Chen asked for thoughts on the main character's struggle with identity, Zara raised her hand. "Yes, Zara?" Ms. Chen looked pleased. "Pecola believes that if she had blue eyes, she would be beautiful and loved. She internalizes society's standards instead of recognizing her own worth. The book shows how damaging it is when we let others define us." The room fell silent. Madison turned around again, this time with a raised eyebrow. "Excellent analysis," Ms. Chen said. "That's exactly the theme we've been discussing." When the bell rang, Zara gathered her things and checked her schedule. Next was advanced placement chemistry in Building D. As she stood, Madison bumped into her, causing Zara's books to scatter across the floor. "Oops, sorry," Madison said, not sounding sorry at all. Two girls flanking Madison giggled. Zara knelt to collect her books. A boy with curly brown hair and glasses stopped to help. "Don't mind Madison and her crew," he said. handing Zara her chemistry textbook. "They're like this with everyone who isn't in their circle." "Thanks," Zara said, taking the book. "I'm Zara." "I'm Elijah," he replied with a friendly smile. "Also, in AP Chem, want to walk together?" They headed to their next class with Elijah pointing out shortcuts between buildings. "So what brought you to Westlake mid-semester?" he asked. "My father thought it would be good for me," Zara said with a small shrug. "He has big plans for my future." "Parents?" Elijah nodded sympathetically. "Mine are the same way. Study hard, get into an Ivy League, become a doctor. The whole blueprint." "What do you want to do?" Zara asked. "Computer science. Video game design specifically." "You?" "Architecture," Zara said, a rare smile crossing her face. "I want to design buildings that change how people live and work." By lunchtime, Zara had survived 3 classes and met several of Madison's friends, all of whom seemed to take their cues from her. They weren't openly hostile, just dismissive, as if Zara were a slightly interesting insect they might eventually get around to squashing. The cafeteria looked more like a restaurant than a school lunchroom, with different stations, offering various cuisines. Zara chose a simple salad and a bottle of water, then looked for somewhere to sit. Elijah waved from a table near the windows, but before she could join him, Madison stepped directly into her path. Madison's tray bumped against Zara's, sending the salad and water bottle crashing to the floor. "Oops," Madison said loudly. "I guess they don't teach coordination at public schools." The cafeteria quieted as everyone turned to watch. Zara stared at her ruined lunch, then at Madison's smirking face surrounded by equally amused friends. "I guess scholarships don't cover table manners either," one of Madison's friends added. Zara took a slow breath, her father's words echoing in her mind. "Your reaction is your choice. Choose dignity." She knelt to clean up the mess. A moment later, Elijah was beside her with napkins. "Leave it," he muttered. "The staff will clean it. Just grab another lunch." "It's fine," Zara said, her voice steady. "I can clean up after myself." "You shouldn't have to," he insisted. A cafeteria worker hurried over with a mop. "Don't worry about this, honey. Go get yourself another lunch. It's on the house today." Zara thanked the woman and stepped around the mess, ignoring the stares as she returned to the food line. This time she chose a sandwich and an apple. When she turned around, Madison and her friends were watching her, clearly disappointed by her lack of reaction. Zara walked to Elijah's table and sat down. "That was handled with surprising grace," said a girl with dark curly hair who was sitting with Elijah. "I'm Priya, by the way." "Thanks," Zara said. "I've dealt with worse." "Madison's father is on the school board," Priya explained. "Her family donated the science building, so she thinks she owns the place. And the rest of us," added another boy at the table. Zara unwrapped her sandwich. "People like that are everywhere. Different faces, same attitude. Most new kids try to impress them," Elijah said. "You didn't even try." "I'm not here to make friends," Zara replied. "Just to get an education." After lunch, Zara had math and then history. In each class, she found herself either ignored or subjected to whispered comments. By the end of the day, she was mentally exhausted from maintaining her composure. As she waited for the bus, Madison and 2 friends drove by in a convertible, music blasting. Madison slowed down. "Need a ride, charity case?" she called out. "Oh, wait, you probably live too far away. Wouldn't want to get carjacked in your neighborhood." Zara stared straight ahead, pretending not to hear. The girls laughed as they sped away. The bus arrived a few minutes later. Zara climbed aboard and took a seat near the back, away from the other students. She pulled out her sketchbook and began drawing, letting the lines and shapes calm her mind as the bus wound its way through the wealthy neighborhood surrounding the school. When the bus finally reached her stop, Zara tucked away her sketchbook and stepped off. She walked 3 blocks to a modest apartment building. This wasn't where she lived with her father, but it was close to where her aunt worked, and she could stay there until her father picked her up after work. Inside the small apartment, her Aunt Lisa greeted her with a hug. "How was the first day at the fancy school?" Lisa asked, setting a glass of lemonade in front of Zara. Educational, Zara replied. That bad, huh? Zara shrugged. Just the usual. Rich kids being rich kids. Lisa sat across from her niece. Your father means well, you know. He wants you to have opportunities. I know, Zara said, and I'm trying. For him. Later that evening, when her father's car pulled up outside, Zara gathered her things. Remember, Lisa said, hugging her goodbye. You're a Williams. You come from strength. Zara nodded and headed out to her father's car. Not the expensive one he used for business, but the older, more practical one he drove when it was just the two of them. How was your first day? He asked as she buckled her seatbelt. Zara thought about everything that had happened. The whispers, the lunch incident, Madison and her friends. Then she thought about Elijah's kindness and Priya's friendly welcome. It was interesting, she said finally. I think it's going to be an interesting year. Her father glanced at her, concern in his eyes. Are you sure you're okay with this, if it's too much? No, Zara interrupted. I can handle it. Like you always say, it's good to know all sides of the world. As they drove home, Zara looked out the window at the changing neighborhoods. Her father had his reasons for sending her to Westlake, and she trusted him. Tomorrow would be another day, another chance to prove, mostly to herself, that she belonged anywhere she chose to be, regardless of what Madison or anyone else thought. The familiar streets of their neighborhood came into view, and Zara felt herself relax. One day down, many more to go. The next 2 weeks at Westlake Prep were exactly what Zara had expected, a daily exercise in patience and self-control. Madison and her group of friends had made it their mission to remind Zara that she didn't belong. It started with small things. Someone accidentally spilled water on her homework. Her gym clothes disappeared from her locker, forcing her to participate in PE wearing her regular clothes and earning her detention. Whispers followed her through hallways. Seats beside her remained empty in class, as if being near her might be contagious. Zara endured it all with quiet dignity. She never complained to teachers or showed any sign that the bullying affected her. Every morning she stood in front of the mirror in her aunt's apartment and repeated her father's words. Your worth isn't determined by their opinion. On this particular Monday morning, Zara arrived early to complete a chemistry lab with Elijah. They had become study partners, and she appreciated his straightforward friendship. He never asked prying questions about her life outside of school, and she returned the favor. You're getting good at ignoring them, Elijah said as they set up their experiment. Zara measured liquid into a beaker. I've had practice. At your old school? Everywhere. She adjusted the Bunsen burner. When you're often the only black girl in advanced classes, you learn to tune out the noise. Elijah nodded thoughtfully. Still, what Madison's doing goes beyond normal mean girl stuff. Have you thought about telling someone? Zara shook her head. That would just make it worse. Besides, people like Madison exist everywhere. Learning to deal with them is part of life. That's a very mature way of looking at it, Elijah said, sounding impressed. Not mature, just realistic. Their conversation paused as other students began filing into the lab. Madison entered with her friend Alexis, both glancing at Zara before taking a station far across the room. The chemistry teacher, Mr. Patel, began explaining the day's experiment. As he spoke, Zara felt her phone vibrate in her pocket. She discreetly checked it. A message from her father. Running late tonight. Meeting with investors. Aunt Lisa will pick you up. Love you. Zara sent back a quick okay and tucked her phone away. Her father's real estate development company was working on a major new project, which meant long hours for him. She understood, even though she missed their evening talks. After chemistry came English, Zara's favorite class. Ms. Chen was discussing their upcoming projects when Madison raised her hand. Ms. Chen, I heard the school is hosting the Regional Literary Festival next month. Will we be involved? Ms. Chen smiled. As a matter of fact, yes. We're looking for student volunteers to help organize and present. Anyone interested should see me after class. Madison turned in her seat to look directly at Zara. It's a prestigious event. Only the best students usually participate. The implication was clear. Zara shouldn't bother applying. But something in Madison's smug expression made Zara's resolve harden. When class ended, she approached Ms. Chen's desk, right behind Madison. "I'd like to volunteer for the literary festival," Zara said. Madison turned, eyebrows raised in mock surprise. "You? But you just got here. You don't know anything about our school traditions." "The festival isn't about school traditions," Ms. Chen interjected gently. "It's about literary analysis and presentation skills, which Zara has demonstrated admirably in class." She handed both girls sign-up forms. "We need volunteers for everything from event planning to panel discussions. Just mark your interests and return these tomorrow." Madison snatched her form and left without another word. Zara thanked Ms. Chen and tucked the form carefully into her folder. In the hallway, Elijah was waiting. "What was that about?" "The literary festival I volunteered. With Madison? Brave." Zara shrugged. "I like literature. Why shouldn't I participate?" They headed toward the cafeteria, but as they rounded a corner, they nearly collided with Madison and a group of her friends. "Watch where you're going, scholarship kid," one boy said, moving to block their path. "We were just talking about you," Madison added, her voice falsely sweet. "Trying to figure out how you got into Westlake. My father is on the board, you know, and he says they only accept scholarship students with exceptional talent." She looked Zara up and down. "So what's your talent? Basketball? Rap music?" Zara felt her cheeks warm but kept her expression neutral. Beside her, Elijah tensed. "Leave her alone, Madison," he said. "Or what, computer boy? You'll code us to death?" Madison laughed and her friends joined in. Zara put a hand on Elijah's arm. "It's fine. They're not worth it." "Ooh, they're not worth it," Madison mimicked. "Is that what your scholarship counselor taught you to say? Or did you learn that in whatever ghetto?" "That's enough, Miss Carter." The stern voice belonged to Mr. Patel, who had just exited a nearby classroom. The chemistry teacher's expression was unusually serious. "This hallway is not a social gathering spot. Move along to lunch, all of you." Madison's group dispersed quickly, but as she passed Zara, Madison whispered, "This isn't over." Mr. Patel waited until they were gone, then turned to Zara and Elijah. "Are you two all right?" "We're fine, sir," Zara said. "Thank you." The teacher nodded, his eyes lingering on Zara with concern. "If you ever need to talk, my office is always open." "I appreciate that," Zara said, though she had no intention of taking him up on the offer. Complaining would only make things worse. At lunch, Zara sat with Elijah, Priya, and a few other students who had gradually accepted her into their circle. They weren't exactly friends yet, but they were friendly, and that was enough for now. "Heard you volunteered for the literary festival," Priya said, opening her homemade lunch. "That's cool. I'm doing the photography for it." "Madison seemed upset about it," Zara replied. "Madison thinks she owns every school event," said Tyler, another boy at their table. "Her mother chairs half the committees in town, so Madison expects to be handed leadership positions." "Well, she's in for a surprise," Priya said with a grin. "Ms. Chen already told me she's thinking of asking you to lead one of the discussion panels, Zara. She was impressed by your essay on symbolism in modern fiction." Zara looked up, surprised. "Really? Don't look so shocked." Priya laughed. "You're smart. Teachers notice these things." After lunch, Zara headed to history class. As she entered the classroom, she noticed something written on the whiteboard. "Scholarship charity case," with a crude drawing beside it. Several students were already seated, a few snickering, others looking uncomfortable. Zara's first instinct was to erase it quickly, but that would show it affected her. Instead, she took her usual seat and calmly began organizing her notebooks as if she hadn't noticed. Mr. Dawson, the history teacher, entered moments later. He stopped short when he saw the board, his face darkening. Without comment, he erased the message and began class discussing the civil rights movement with particular emphasis. "Today we're examining how systemic prejudice manifests in institutions and social structures," he said, his gaze sweeping the room, "and how small acts of cruelty often reveal more about the perpetrators than their targets." Several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Zara kept her eyes on her notes, but she felt a small sense of gratitude toward the teacher. After history came math, and then finally, the school day was over. Zara headed to her locker to gather her books for homework. When she opened it, dozens of small paper cutouts fell out, all crude caricatures with her name written on them. Zara stared at the mess, feeling a wave of tiredness. It wasn't the first time something like this had happened, but the constant pressure was wearing. She knelt to gather the papers, determined not to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her upset. Need help? Zara looked up to see a girl she recognized from math class. She had never spoken to Zara before. No, thanks. I've got it. The girl hesitated, then said quietly, I know who did this. It was Lisa P. and Ryan, Madison's friends. I saw them at your locker earlier. Zara nodded, unsurprised. Thanks for telling me. I should have stopped them, the girl admitted. I'm sorry. It's okay, Zara said, though it wasn't. Standing up to them is hard. I'm Grace, by the way. Zara. Grace helped her gather the last of the papers despite Zara's protest. You know, not everyone here thinks like Madison and her friends. I know, Zara said, thinking of Elijah and Priya. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. Grace smiled awkwardly and walked away. Zara finished cleaning up and headed out to wait for her aunt's car. While waiting, she pulled out the literary festival form and began filling it out. Under areas of interest, she checked panel discussion leader and event planning committee. If Madison wanted a fight, Zara would give her one, not through confrontation but by excelling despite the obstacles thrown her way. Her aunt's car pulled up, and Zara got in, tucking the form away. Rough day? Lisa asked, noting Zara's expression. The usual, Zara replied. Nothing I can't handle. Lisa reached over and squeezed her niece's hand. Your mother would be proud of you, you know. She never let anyone push her around either. Zara smiled at the mention of her mother, who had passed away when Zara was 8. I know. At her aunt's apartment, Zara spent the afternoon doing homework and then helping Lisa prepare dinner. Her father texted that he would be even later than expected, so Zara should stay at Lisa's for the night. Another late meeting? Lisa asked as they washed dishes together. Big project, Zara replied. He's meeting with investors. Lisa nodded. Your father works too hard, ever since your mother died. He's trying to build something lasting. Zara said, defending him automatically. For both of us. I know, sweetie. I just worry that he forgets to live in the present sometimes. After dinner, Zara called her father. He sounded tired but excited about his project. How's school? He asked. Any better? Zara hesitated. She never told him about the bullying. He had enough to worry about, and besides, this was something she needed to handle herself. It's fine, she said. I volunteered for the literary festival. That's wonderful, her father replied, his voice warm with pride. You've always had such insight into books, just like your mother. They talked for a few more minutes before he had to return to his meeting. After hanging up, Zara sat on the guest bed, thinking. She pulled out her sketchbook and began drawing, not buildings this time, but faces. Madison's smug expression. Elijah's kind smile. Grace's hesitant friendliness. People were more complicated than buildings. With architecture, there were rules, physics, clear principles to follow. Human behavior was messier, less predictable. Yet somehow Zara found herself fascinated by both. The next morning, she returned to Westlake with renewed determination. When she reached her locker, she found the word fake written across it in black marker. Without reacting, Zara opened her locker, retrieved her books, and closed it again. The word remained, but she wouldn't give it power over her day. In English, class Ms. Chen collected the literary festival forms. Madison made a show of handing hers in, complete with a glossy headshot attached. My mother suggested I include my photo since I've had professional acting training, Madison explained loudly. She thinks I should lead the dramatic reading portion. Ms. Chen accepted the form with a polite nod, then turned to Zara. And yours, Zara? Zara handed over her simple, neatly completed form. I checked several areas where I might be helpful. Excellent, Ms. Chen said, glancing at it. I'll be making assignments by the end of the week. After class, Madison cornered Zara in the hallway. You're wasting your time, you know. The literary festival is a big deal. Colleges look at these things, and they want leaders, not whatever you are. Zara met Madison's gaze steadily. And what am I exactly? The question seemed to catch Madison off guard. For a moment she looked uncertain, but then her usual sneer returned. You're nobody. A diversity admission they'll forget the minute you graduate, if you even make it that far. Is that what you need to believe? Zara asked calmly. That I'm nobody? Madison blinked, then scoffed. Whatever. Stay out of my way with this festival thing. As Madison stalked off, Zara felt a small sense of victory. For the first time, she had seen a crack in Madison's confidence. It wasn't much, but it was something. The rest of the day passed in the usual mix of classes, subtle slights, and whispered comments, but something had shifted. Zara no longer felt like she was just enduring Westlake. She was beginning to find her place within it, building quiet alliances with teachers like Ms. Chen and Mr. Patel, forming tentative friendships with Elijah, Priya, and now possibly Grace. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And Zara Williams had never been afraid of starting small and building something lasting. After all, that's what architects did. They created something meaningful from the ground up, one careful, deliberate piece at a time. The morning announcements crackled through the classroom speakers as Zara settled into her seat in English class. Most students paid little attention, but Zara always listened carefully, hunting for opportunities to get involved at Westlake despite the ongoing cold treatment from Madison and her friends. And finally, came the principal's voice. Ms. Chen's advanced English class will begin their community improvement project this week. This counts for 30% of your final grade and will culminate in presentations to the City Planning Commission next month. Zara straightened in her seat. This was exactly the kind of project she'd been hoping for, something that combined her love of literature with her passion for architecture and community design. Ms. Chen waited for the announcements to finish before addressing the class. As you just heard, we're starting our community project today. You'll work in groups of 3 to create a proposal for a community center in the Riverdale neighborhood. Excited murmurs filled the room. Riverdale was a struggling area of town that had been in the news lately due to funding cuts for after-school programs. I've already assigned the groups, Ms. Chen continued, holding up a sheet of paper. And before anyone asks, no, you cannot switch. She began reading names, and Zara silently hoped she'd be with Elijah or Priya. But when her name was called, her heart sank. Group 5, Zara Williams, Madison Carter, and Alexis Rivera. Madison's outraged gasp was audible throughout the classroom. Ms. Chen, there must be some mistake. No mistake, Madison, Ms. Chen replied calmly. The groups were carefully chosen to blend different strengths and perspectives. But the assignments are final, Ms. Chen said firmly. Now, each group will receive a packet with project requirements and background information on Riverdale. You'll have the rest of the class period to begin planning. Zara gathered her things and reluctantly moved to join Madison and Alexis at their table. Madison was furiously texting under her desk, probably complaining to her parents, while Alexis looked uncomfortable but not openly hostile. Let's just get this over with, Madison said, finally putting her phone away. I'll handle the writing portion since I have the highest English grade. Alexis, you can do the research, and you... She looked at Zara dismissively. You can make the poster or whatever. Actually, Zara said, opening the project packet, this is more involved than a poster. We need to create a comprehensive proposal including architectural renderings, budget estimates, and a community impact statement. And how would you know about any of that? Madison sneered. Zara took a deep breath. My father works in real estate development. I've grown up around architectural plans and community proposals. What, like he's a construction worker or something? Madison scoffed. Something like that, Zara replied evenly. The point is, I can handle the design aspects if you two want to focus on other parts. Alexis, who had been quietly reading the packet, looked up. It says here we need to visit Riverdale and conduct interviews with local residents about what they want in a community center. Ugh, seriously? Madison rolled her eyes. I'm not going to that neighborhood. It's dangerous. It's not dangerous, Zara said. It's just underserved. Whatever. My parents won't let me go there anyway. Madison flipped through the packet. We can just make up the interviews. That would be dishonest, Zara pointed out. And Ms. Chen will probably check. Fine, then you go, Madison said. Since you're so comfortable in neighborhoods like that. Zara ignored the implication. I'll go. But we all need to contribute equally to this project. It's 30% of our grade. Trust me, I'm not letting Scholarship Girl tank my GPA, Madison muttered. We'll meet at the library tomorrow after school to work on this. Don't be late. When the bell rang, Zara gathered her things quickly, wanting to escape the tension. In the hallway, Elijah caught up with her. I saw your group assignment, he said sympathetically. That's rough. Could be worse, Zara shrugged. At least Alexis isn't as bad as Madison. True, hey, want to grab lunch off campus? A bunch of us are heading to the sandwich place down the street. Zara hesitated. She'd brought lunch from home as usual, partly to save money and partly to avoid the sometimes awkward dynamics of the cafeteria. Come on, Elijah urged. It'll be fun, and you deserve a break from those two. Okay, Zara agreed with a small smile. Let me just put my books away. At her locker, Zara found a note taped to the door. Group meeting changed to my house tomorrow, 4 p.m. Address below. Don't be late. Madison. Zara sighed. Of course, Madison would change the plans without discussing it. The address listed was in Lakeview Heights, the wealthiest neighborhood in town. Getting there would mean taking 2 buses after school. Problem? Elijah asked, noticing her expression. Just Madison being Madison, Zara replied, showing him the note. Lakeview Heights? That's like an hour by bus from here. I know. I could give you a ride, Elijah offered. My mom lets me use her car on weekdays. Zara's first instinct was to refuse. She hated accepting help, but practicality won out. Thanks, that would be great. The next day after school, Elijah drove Zara to Madison's house, a sprawling mansion set back from the road behind an ornate iron gate. A security guard checked their names against a list before allowing them to drive up to the house. This is something, Elijah muttered as they approached the massive front door. It's just a house, Zara said, though even she was a bit intimidated by the sheer scale of the place. A uniformed housekeeper answered the door and led them to a sunroom at the back of the house, where Madison and Alexis were already waiting. Scattered across a large table were magazines, nail polish bottles, and snacks, clearly not project materials. You're late, Madison said, not looking up from her phone. We're exactly on time, Zara replied, checking her watch. 4 o'clock. Whatever. I told Elijah he didn't need to come. I'm just giving Zara a ride, Elijah said. I'll pick you up at 6, he added to Zara before leaving. Alexis at least had the project packet open in front of her. I did some preliminary research on Riverdale, she said, pushing a folder toward Zara. Mostly demographics and current community resources. Thanks, Zara said, genuinely surprised by Alexis's effort. That's helpful. Can we get this over with? Madison sighed dramatically. I have plans later. For the next hour they worked on outlining their proposal. Despite her attitude, Madison was sharp and had good ideas about the writing portion. Alexis's research was thorough, if a bit impersonal, but when they got to the design aspect, they hit a wall. We need actual drawings, Alexis said. None of us can draw that well. My dad can hire someone, Madison suggested. He knows architects. That would be cheating, Zara pointed out. We're supposed to do this ourselves. Well, unless you have a better idea. Zara hesitated, then unzipped her backpack and pulled out her sketchbook. I might be able to help with that part. She flipped to a blank page and began sketching rapidly. First a rough outline of a building, then adding details. Large windows, an open courtyard, different spaces for various community needs. Madison and Alexis watched in silence as the drawing took shape. After a few minutes, Zara had created a detailed concept sketch of a community center. This is just a rough idea, she explained. Based on what I know about Riverdale, we'd need to adjust it after talking to residents, of course. Alexis leaned closer, clearly impressed. That's really good. Where did you learn to draw like that? My father taught me, Zara said simply. He believes in understanding all aspects of development, not just the business side. Madison picked up the sketchbook, examining the drawing with narrowed eyes. This is not terrible, she admitted reluctantly. High praise, Zara said dryly. Don't get cocky, Madison snapped. It's just a sketch. It's more than that, Alexis said, still looking at the drawing. It's like you actually thought about what people might need. That's the whole point of community-centered design, Zara explained, warming to the subject. You start with the people who'll use the space, not with how the building will look from the outside. She turned to a fresh page and began sketching again, this time showing the interior layout. See, here we could have flexible spaces that convert from classrooms during the day to meeting rooms in the evening. And this area could be a technology center where kids can do homework if they don't have computers at home. For the next hour, Zara sketched and explained, forgetting momentarily who she was talking to. Architecture was her passion, and it showed. In the animated way she described each feature and its purpose. Even Madison seemed grudgingly interested. So this courtyard thing, why put it in the middle instead of out front? Security and community, Zara explained. An interior courtyard is protected from the street, but still gives people outdoor space. It becomes the heart of the building, visible from all the main areas. By 6 o'clock, when Elijah texted that he was outside, they had made real progress. Zara had produced several concept sketches and they had outlined a solid proposal. I'll type up what we have so far, Alexis offered, and maybe you could clean up those sketches into something we can include. Sure, Zara agreed. And I still need to visit Riverdale for the community input. About that, Madison said, suddenly businesslike. My father says we can't go there without proper security. Liability issues for a school project. Zara doubted that was the real reason, but she didn't argue. I can go on my own. I know people there. You do? Alexis looked surprised. My aunt volunteers at the community library branch there, Zara explained. I've gone with her a few times. Perfect, Madison said, clearly relieved to have an excuse not to go. You handle that part then. As Zara gathered her things to leave, Madison's mother appeared in the doorway. She was a sleek, polished woman who looked like an older version of her daughter. Madison, darling, are your friends staying for dinner? Tomas is making his famous paella. They're not my friends, Mother, Madison said. They're my project partners, and they're leaving. Mrs. Carter's smile didn't falter, but her eyes swept over Zara with cool assessment. I see. Well, it was nice to meet you both. Thank you for having us, Zara said politely. Outside, Elijah was waiting in his car. How'd it go? No bloodshed? Surprisingly productive, actually, Zara replied as she buckled her seatbelt. Alexis isn't so bad when Madison isn't controlling. Her every thought. Progress, Elijah nodded. Small victories. The following Saturday, Zara met her Aunt Lisa at the Riverdale Community Library. While Lisa helped with the children's reading program, Zara set up a small table with a sign. What would you want in a new community center? Student project. Throughout the morning, she talked with parents, teenagers, and elderly residents, taking careful notes about their needs and wishes. Many mentioned the lack of safe spaces for young people after school. Others talked about needing job training resources or meeting spaces for community groups. A teenage boy about Zara's age stopped by her table. What school is this for? He asked skeptically. Westlake Prep, Zara admitted. Fancy, he said. You don't seem like a Westlake kid. I'm new there, Zara replied. Just transferred this semester. Lucky you, the boy said, but without malice. I'm Devin. My mom runs the youth program here when the library can afford to keep it open. Zara, she introduced herself. So what would you want in a community center? Devin thought for a moment. A real music studio, even a small one. There's so much talent here but no way to record or produce. And maybe a tech lab with actual current computers, not the dinosaurs they give us at school. Zara wrote it all down, then pulled out her sketchbook. Could you show me where you'd put those things? I've been working on a design. Devin sat down, and they bent over the sketchbook together. Soon, other teens joined them, offering suggestions and critiques of Zara's design. By the end of the day, her initial concept had evolved significantly based on their input. When she met up with Aunt Lisa to head home, she felt energized in a way she hadn't since starting at Westlake. Good day? Lisa asked, noticing Zara's smile. Really? Good, Zara confirmed. These people know exactly what they need. They just need someone to listen. On Monday, Zara brought her revised sketches and community feedback to school. She caught up with Alexis before class. I got a lot of great input from Riverdale residents, Zara said, showing Alexis her notes. We should incorporate this into our proposal. Alexis looked through the pages of feedback. Wow, you really did the work. Madison just assumed you'd make something up. That's not my style, Zara said. I'm learning that, Alexis replied with a small smile. Speaking of Madison, she's going to be absent today. Some kind of family thing. So it's just us working on the project in class? Looks like it. In English, Ms. Chen gave them time to work on their proposals. Without Madison dominating the conversation, Zara and Alexis worked well together, incorporating the community feedback into their design and writing. These sketches are seriously impressive, Alexis said, examining Zara's refined drawings. You could be an architect. That's the plan, Zara admitted. Eventually. You're really good at it, Alexis said, sounding genuinely impressed. I thought Madison was being dramatic when she said we'd get a bad grade without her, but honestly, your work is carrying this project. Zara wasn't sure how to respond to this unexpected praise. We're all contributing. Your research is solid. Alexis shrugged. Research is easy. What you're doing takes talent. By the time Madison returned to school the next day, Zara and Alexis had made significant progress on the project. Madison looked over their work with a frown. You changed my outline, she accused. We improved it, Alexis corrected gently. Based on the actual feedback Zara got from Riverdale. And these drawings, Madison continued, flipping through Zara's refined sketches. They look professional. Thanks, Zara said, unsure if it was meant as a compliment. Madison's frown deepened. My father knows the head of the City Planning Commission. He says they never approve projects from that neighborhood because they're not economically viable. Maybe they haven't seen the right project, Zara suggested. One that truly reflects what the community needs. That's naive, Madison scoffed. It's all about money and politics. Maybe, Zara conceded, but our job is to create the best proposal we can, right? Let the commission worry about politics. For the next 2 weeks, they continued working on the project. Despite occasional friction, they fell into a productive rhythm. Madison handled the written proposal with her strong writing skills. Alexis compiled research and created impressive charts showing the potential community impact. And Zara refined her designs, creating detailed renderings based on her visits to Riverdale. The night before their presentation, they met at Madison's house for a final review. Zara had taken extra care with the display boards, mounting her renderings alongside quotes from community members she'd interviewed. This actually looks good, Madison admitted as they surveyed their completed work. Ms. Chen can't possibly give us less than an A. And the commission might actually listen, Zara added. This is a solid proposal. Let's not get carried away, Madison cautioned. It's still just a school project. It doesn't have to be, Zara said quietly. Ideas have to start somewhere. Madison gave her an odd look but didn't argue. The next day they presented their project to the class. Madison delivered a polished introduction. Alexis explained their research methodology, and Zara walked everyone through the design, explaining how each element addressed specific community needs identified in their interviews. Ms. Chen looked genuinely impressed. Excellent work, all of you. The integration of community feedback into the design is particularly noteworthy. After class, Ms. Chen asked them to stay behind. I've selected your group's proposal to present to the actual City Planning Commission next week, she announced. They're holding a special session for student projects, and yours stands out as exceptionally well-researched and designed. Madison's eyes widened. Really? Ours? Yes. The commission is particularly interested in new ideas for the Riverdale area, and your proposal offers a fresh perspective. Can all three of you attend next Wednesday afternoon? They nodded, Zara trying to contain her excitement. This was exactly the kind of opportunity she'd dreamed of. A chance to present her ideas to people who could actually make them happen. As they left the classroom, Madison turned to Zara with an unreadable expression. I guess we should practice our presentation more before Wednesday. Definitely, Zara agreed. We want to be ready for any questions. My house tomorrow after school? Madison suggested, surprising Zara with the consultation rather than command. Works for me, Zara said, as Madison walked away. Alexis hung back. You know, she's actually impressed with your work. She'd never admit it, but I can tell. It doesn't matter, Zara shrugged. I just want our proposal to be the best it can be. But as she headed to her next class, Zara couldn't help feeling a small sense of satisfaction. Not because she'd impressed Madison, that had never been her goal, but because their project had real potential to help the Riverdale community. For the first time since coming to Westlake, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. The project that had started as a dreaded group assignment with her bully had somehow transformed into something meaningful. And in the process, something had subtly shifted between the three of them. Not friendship exactly, but a grudging respect that hadn't existed before. As Zara sat in her next class, she allowed herself a small smile. Her father always said that good work spoke for itself, louder than any words could. Maybe he was right. Maybe the best way to change minds wasn't through confrontation or explanation, but simply by quietly excelling at what you loved. The morning of the City Planning Commission presentation, Zara woke earlier than usual. She stood in front of her closet, considering her options with unusual care. Today mattered. It wasn't just about a school grade anymore. It was about presenting their community center proposal to people who could actually make it happen. She finally settled on a simple, navy blue dress that her father had bought her for special occasions, paired with a tailored blazer, professional but not pretentious. As she braided her hair, her phone buzzed with a text from Alexis. Nervous about today? Madison's been practicing her part all morning. She says her dad will be there. Zara wasn't surprised. Madison had been uncharacteristically serious about their preparation sessions over the past week. Something about presenting to the actual commission, where her family name was well known, had made her even more determined than usual. A little nervous, Zara texted back. But we're prepared. Her father knocked gently on her bedroom. Sure. Breakfast is ready. Downstairs, he had prepared her favorite, French toast with fresh berries. It was a rare treat to have breakfast with him on a weekday, but he had adjusted his schedule to drive her to school today. Big day, he said, sliding a plate in front of her. It's just a school project, Zara said, trying to downplay her excitement. Her father smiled knowingly. A school project presenting to the City Planning Commission. Don't minimize your achievements. Zara, I taught you better than that. She returned his smile, grateful for his support. Since her mother died, it had been just the two of them against the world. He worked long hours growing his real estate development company, but he never missed the important moments. Will you be able to make it to the presentation? She asked. trying to sound casual. He hesitated. I have an important investor meeting this afternoon, but I'll try to stop by if it ends early. Zara nodded, hiding her disappointment. She understood his work was demanding, especially with the new development project he was pursuing. It's okay. Ms. Chen will be there, and it's being recorded for our grade. I want to hear all about it tonight, he promised. Every detail. Addie, school. The energy in Ms. Chen's English class was different. The 3 groups selected to present to the commission were exempted from regular classwork to make final preparations. Madison arrived wearing an expensive-looking pantsuit, her hair styled perfectly. We need to coordinate our presentation materials, she said without preamble, setting down a leather portfolio. My father says appearance matters as much as content with the commission. Alexis arrived moments later, also dressed more formally than usual. She eyed Zara's outfit with approval. We all got the dress-up memo, I see. They spent the period reviewing their talking points and ensuring their visual aids were perfect. Zara had mounted her final renderings on professional display boards, and Alexis had created a polished digital presentation with their research findings. Remember, Madison instructed, my father says Commissioner Blake always asks about budget considerations, so we need to be ready for that. I've prepared cost estimates based on similar projects, Zara replied. They're in the appendix of our proposal. Madison looked surprised. You did? When? Over the weekend. I asked my father about typical construction costs per square foot for community buildings. Your construction worker dad knows about that stuff? Madison asked, her tone making it clear she found this dubious. Zara just nodded. She had long since stopped correcting Madison's assumptions about her background. He knows enough. Lunch period came and went with the 3 of them too focused on preparation to eat much. Finally, at 2 p.m., Ms. Chen gathered the presenting groups and led them to the school's parking lot, where a minibus waited to take them downtown to City Hall. Remember, Ms. Chen told them as they boarded, this is an incredible opportunity. The commission rarely hears from students, so make it count. And regardless of their response, I'm proud of all of you for the work you've done. The ride downtown was mostly silent, each student lost in thought. Zara gazed out the window as the neighborhoods changed, from the manicured perfection of the area around Westlake to the bustling downtown, and briefly skirting the edge of Riverdale itself. The contrast reinforced why their project mattered. City Hall was an imposing stone building with wide steps leading to tall columns. Inside, the marble floors and high ceilings echoed with important-sounding conversations as government workers hurried about their business. They were directed to a large hearing room where the commission would meet. Several adults in business attire were already seated at a long curved table at the front. The commissioners, Zara presumed. Among them was an older man with Madison's distinctive jawline and confident posture. He nodded briefly in their direction as they entered. That's my father, Madison whispered unnecessarily. Commissioner Carter. Other audience members began filtering in, mostly adults with briefcases and tablets, likely there for the regular commission business that would follow the student presentations. Zara scanned the room, not really expecting to see her father, but hoping nonetheless. As expected, he wasn't there. The commission chairwoman, an elegant woman with silver-streaked hair, called the meeting to order. Before our regular agenda, we're pleased to welcome students from Westlake Preparatory Academy, who will share their vision for community improvement projects. First up, Team Greenspace with their proposal for urban gardens. The first 2 presentations went well, with polite applause from the commissioners and a few cursory questions. When it was their turn, Madison stepped confidently to the podium, with Zara and Alexis flanking her at the presentation board. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Lynn and Commissioners, Madison began smoothly. I'm Madison Carter, and with my teammates Alexis Rivera and Zara Williams, we're presenting our proposal for the Riverdale Community Connection Center. She launched into their introduction flawlessly, outlining the need for a multi-purpose community space in Riverdale. Alexis followed with their research findings, speaking clearly despite her obvious nerves. Then it was Zara's turn. As she moved to the center position, Zara took a deep breath and focused on the rendering she'd created. This was the part she knew best, the heart of their proposal. Our design philosophy centers on 3 core principles, she began, her voice steady: accessibility, flexibility, and community ownership. Rather than imposing a structure on Riverdale, we sought input directly from residents about what they need and want. She guided the commissioners through her renderings, explaining how each element of the design addressed specific community needs identified in their research. As she spoke, she noticed the commissioners leaning forward, seeming genuinely interested. The central courtyard serves as the heart of the building, Zara explained, pointing to her detailed drawing. It provides secure outdoor space while symbolically bringing light into the center of the community. The surrounding spaces are designed to be flexible, transforming from classrooms to meeting rooms to event spaces as needed throughout the day. She continued through the design features: the technology center where students could do homework, the recording studio that local musicians had requested, the commercial kitchen that could support culinary training programs and community meals. Most importantly, Zara concluded, this center is designed to be built in phases as funding allows, with each completed section fully functional while additional elements are added. This approach makes the project financially viable while immediately beginning to serve community needs. As she stepped back, she noticed that Commissioner Carter was studying her with an odd expression. Madison took over again for their conclusion, and then the chairwoman opened the floor for questions. "I'm impressed with the thoughtfulness of your design," one commissioner said, "particularly the phased implementation approach. That shows real-world thinking." "Thank you," Zara replied. "We wanted to create something aspirational but practical." Commissioner Carter cleared his throat. "Ms. Williams, the level of detail in these renderings is quite professional. Do you have background in architectural design?" "I've studied it independently," Zara answered carefully. "And I've learned a lot from my father, who works in development." He nodded, seemingly satisfied. "And the budget estimates? They seem remarkably accurate for a student project." "Again, I consulted with my father and researched similar projects," Zara explained. "We wanted our proposal to be grounded in fiscal reality." As the questioning continued, Zara noticed a stir at the back of the room. A tall man in an impeccable suit had entered quietly and taken a seat in the last row. Her father. Despite his busy schedule, he'd made it after all. Zara felt a surge of pride and stood a little straighter. After answering several more questions, their time was up. The chairwoman thanked them for their presentation and they returned to their seats. Madison leaned over to whisper, "That went really well. Even my father seemed impressed." The commission moved on to their regular agenda, and Ms. Chen indicated that the students could leave if they wished. As they gathered their materials, Commissioner Carter approached them. "Madison, excellent work," he said, briefly touching his daughter's shoulder. "All of you. It was a very professional presentation." "Thank you, sir," Alexis replied. "Ms. Williams," he continued, turning to Zara, "those renderings were exceptional. Have you considered pursuing architecture professionally?" "Yes, sir," Zara answered. "That's my plan." "Well, you have talent," he said. "If you'd like an introduction to some colleagues of mine in the field." He was interrupted by a commotion near the door. Several commissioners and audience members had stood up, and people were murmuring excitedly. Zara turned to see what was happening and realized everyone was looking at her father, who was now making his way toward them. Commissioner Carter's eyes widened in recognition. "Is that William Williams, he asked, his voice suddenly different. Before Zara could respond, her father reached them, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sorry I'm late, sweetheart. The investor meeting ran long. Did I miss your presentation?" "Yes, but it's okay," Zara said, smiling up at him. "It went well." "William," Commissioner Carter said, extending his hand. I had no idea your daughter was at Westlake." Zara's father shook his hand firmly. "Ben, Good to see you. Yes, Zara transferred this semester. I've been trying to convince her for years, but she's stubborn like her mother was. Madison was staring at them, her mouth slightly open. Wait, your father is William Williams? The William Williams? The developer? Zara nodded, suddenly uncomfortable with the attention. The William Williams who just donated $50 million to urban renewal projects? Alexis added, equally stunned. The same, Zara's father confirmed with a modest smile. Though I'm just dad to Zara. Ms. Chen approached, looking confused by the commotion. Mr. Williams, thank you for coming. I'm Ms. Chen, Zara's English teacher. The famous Ms. Chen, he replied warmly. Zara speaks highly of you. Thank you for giving these students such a meaningful project. Commissioner Carter had recovered his composure. William, I had no idea your daughter was working on this particular proposal. Had I known, I would have treated her exactly the same as the other students, I hope. Zara's father interrupted smoothly. Zara insisted on making her own way at Westlake. She didn't even want to use our last name, but I drew the line there. Madison was still staring at Zara, her expression a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and rapid calculation. Your father is the billionaire developer? The one who's building the new downtown complex? Among other projects, Zara's father said. But I'm particularly interested in community-centered development, which is why I was eager to see Zara's work today. She's been passionate about community design since she was little. The chairwoman approached their group. Mr. Williams, what a pleasant surprise. We were just discussing the Commission's interest in new approaches to the Riverdale area. So, I heard, he replied. I would have been here sooner, but I was finalizing details for the Williams Foundation's new community development initiative. We're looking to fund innovative projects in underserved neighborhoods. The chairwoman's eyes lit up. What a coincidence. Perhaps we should discuss how these student proposals might align with your foundation's goals. As the adults began talking, Zara found herself standing awkwardly with Madison and Alexis, who were still processing the revelation. So all this time, Madison began, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. When I said those things about scholarships and yes, Zara said simply. But you never corrected me. You let me believe that my father was a construction worker? You assumed that. I just didn't see the point in correcting you. Alexis shook her head in disbelief. But why? Why not just tell everyone who your father is? Things would have been so different. Zara considered the question seriously. Because then I wouldn't know who my real friends are. People who like me for myself, not for my father's name or money. Madison had the grace to look ashamed. She opened her mouth as if to say something, then closed it again. Ms. Chen called the students together to return to school. As they gathered their things, Zara's father pulled her aside for a moment. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. Not just for the presentation, but for how you've handled everything at Westlake. Your mother would be proud too. Thanks, Dad, Zara replied, feeling a lump in her throat. For coming today, I know you're busy. Never too busy for this, he assured her. Then with a glance at Madison, who was still watching them, he added, Are you okay with everyone knowing now? I could have been more discreet. Zara shook her head. It's fine. It would have come out eventually. Well, just remember what I've always taught you. True wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in how you enrich the lives of others. Zara finished with a smile. I know, Dad. On the bus, ride back to school, the dynamic had shifted noticeably. Madison sat alone, unusually quiet, while other students who had barely spoken to Zara before suddenly found reasons to chat with her. Elijah, who had come to support their presentation, sat beside Zara with an amused expression. So, he said, in a low voice, the cat's out of the bag. Apparently, Zara replied. For what it's worth, I had no idea who your father was. I just thought you were cool. Zara smiled gratefully. That's why we're friends. As they approached the school, Madison moved to sit across from Zara. Her usual confidence was subdued, but she met Zara's eyes directly. I owe you an apology, she said, the words clearly difficult for her. The things I said to you, about you, they were cruel and wrong. Zara studied Madison's face, looking for the calculation she had come to expect. There was some there, certainly. Madison was always strategic, but there was also genuine remorse. Thank you for saying that, Zara replied evenly. I just want you to know that my father being impressed with our project had nothing to do with who your father is, Madison continued. He was impressed before he knew, with your work specifically. This surprised Zara. It would have been easier for Madison to attribute any success to Zara's family connection, the way she herself often did. I believe you, Zara said. And? Madison hesitated. I'd understand if you don't want to, but I'm having a party this weekend. You're invited, if you want to come. The invitation was clearly difficult for Madison to extend. Zara considered it for a moment. She had no illusions that they would become best friends, but perhaps this was Madison's way of extending an olive branch. I'll think about it, Zara said finally. As they returned to school, word of William Williams's appearance at City Hall had somehow already spread. Students who had never spoken to Zara before suddenly found reasons to introduce themselves or offer friendly smiles in the hallway. Some were obvious in their newfound interest, while others were more subtle. Zara observed it all with a mixture of amusement and weariness. This was exactly why she hadn't wanted people to know about her father. Now she would never be sure if someone was being friendly because they liked her or because of her family's wealth and influence. At her locker, she found Priya waiting for her. So, billionaire's daughter, huh? That's quite the secret identity. Not really a secret, Zara clarified. Just not something I advertise. Well, it explains a few things, Priya said thoughtfully. Like why you never seemed bothered by Madison's designer whatever, or her dad being on the board. You could buy and sell her whole family if you wanted to. That's not how I think about it, Zara said, uncomfortable with the characterization. I know, Priya assured her. That's what makes you cool, rich or not. As the final bell rang, Zara gathered her things and headed for the exit. Her father had texted that he would pick her up today, and she found herself looking forward to their drive home. They had a lot to talk about. Outside, she spotted her father's car, not the flashy sports car he sometimes drove to business meetings, but the modest sedan they used for everyday trips. Some things, at least, wouldn't change. Madison passed by on her way to her own ride. She paused, looking from Zara to the modest car and back again, clearly puzzled by the disconnect. My father believes in appropriate tools for different situations, Zara explained, anticipating the unasked question. Flashy cars are for impressing investors, not for picking up your daughter from school. Madison nodded slowly, a new understanding dawning in her eyes. Smart, she said finally. Your dad is smart. So are you. It wasn't exactly an apology for weeks of torment, but coming from Madison, it felt like a significant admission. As Zara walked to her father's car, she realized that while the revelation of her father's identity had changed how people at Westlake saw her, the most important change might be in how they saw themselves, and the assumptions they made about others based on appearances alone. Her father smiled as she approached. Good day? He asked as she slid into the passenger seat. Zara thought about everything that had happened, the successful presentation, the revelation of her background, Madison's awkward apology, the sudden attention from classmates who had previously ignored her. Interesting, she said finally. Definitely interesting. As they drove away from Westlake, Zara felt a chapter closing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, navigating her changed social status, dealing with Madison's tentative overtures, of friendship, staying true to herself amidst the sudden attention, but for now she was content to ride home with her father, secure in the knowledge that while wealth and status might open doors, it was what you did once those doors were open that truly mattered. The news about Zara's true identity spread through Westlake Prep like wildfire. By the next morning, every student seemed to know that the quiet new girl they had dismissed or ignored was actually the daughter of billionaire developer William Williams. Zara noticed the change immediately when she walked through the school doors. Conversations paused as she passed. Smiles and greetings came from people who had never acknowledged her before. Even teachers looked at her differently, with a new awareness in their eyes. At her locker, she found a small gift bag hanging from the handle. Inside was an expensive-looking bracelet with a note, "Would love to have you join us for lunch. Brooke." Brooke Chen was part of Madison's inner circle, a girl who had previously only spoken to Zara to make snide comments about her clothes. Zara slipped the bracelet and note back into the bag. This was exactly what she had wanted to avoid. People trying to buy her friendship now that they knew who her father was. "Damage control already started, I see," said Elijah, appearing beside her and nodding at the gift bag. "Apparently," Zara replied, shutting her locker. "How bad is it?" "Well, you're the talk of the school. There are rumors that your father is buying the naming rights to the science building, that you arrived in a gold-plated car this morning, and that you've been secretly judging everyone's fashion choices for a secret reality show." Despite herself, Zara laughed. "Only one of those is true." "The fashion show, obviously," Elijah grinned. "I knew my sweater collection would make me famous someday." They walked together to first period, Zara grateful for Elijah's unchanged attitude. He had become a true friend during her time at Westlake, and his steadiness now felt like an anchor in shifting waters. In English class, Madison was already seated when Zara entered. Their eyes met briefly, and Madison gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Not friendly exactly, but not hostile either. It was progress. Ms. Chen began class by announcing that the City Planning Commission had been impressed by all the student presentations. "In fact," she added with obvious excitement, "Commissioner Lin called me this morning to say they're considering elements from each proposal for actual implementation." A murmur of excitement ran through the classroom. "And," Ms. Chen continued, "I've been asked to select students to participate in a special advisory committee that will work with the commission on finalizing the plans. This is an unprecedented opportunity." Zara felt a spark of genuine excitement. The idea that their project might actually become reality was more than she had hoped for. After class, Ms. Chen asked Zara to stay behind. "I wanted to talk to you about the advisory committee," she said once the other students had left. "You're an obvious choice given your design work on the project." "Thank you," Zara replied. "I'd be honored." Ms. Chen hesitated. "I also want to include Madison and Alexis since it was a team project. Do you think you can all work together effectively given the recent revelations?" Zara considered the question carefully. "I think so. We managed to create a strong proposal together even before they knew about my father. And honestly, the design matters more than any personal dynamics." Ms. Chen nodded, looking relieved. "That's a mature perspective. I'll speak with the others then." As Zara left the classroom, she found Madison waiting in the hallway. "Ms. Chen wants me on the committee," Madison said without preamble. "But I told her I'd only do it if you're okay with it." This surprised Zara. "Why would you need my permission?" Madison looked uncomfortable. "Because I was terrible to you, and now your father is potentially funding the project. It would be awkward." Zara studied Madison's face, looking for signs of calculation or insincerity. There was some there. Madison was always strategic, but there was also something else. Genuine regret, perhaps. "The project is what matters," Zara said finally. "If you want to help make it happen, you should be on the committee." Madison nodded, visibly relieved. "Thank you." She hesitated, then added, "About my party this weekend. The invitation still stands. No pressure, but it would be cool if you came." Zara was saved from responding by the arrival of Alexis, who looked anxiously between them. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Madison assured her. "We're discussing the advisory committee." "And Madison's party," Zara added. "You should come," Alexis told Zara. "It might be, I don't know, healing or whatever." Zara had to smile at Alexis's awkward attempt at peacemaking. "I'll think about it." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of classes and curious stares. By lunchtime, Zara felt mentally exhausted from navigating the changed social dynamics. She considered eating alone in the library, but Elijah appeared at her side and steered her toward their usual table. "Priya saved us seats," he said. And before you ask, yes, everyone is still talking about you, but they'll find something new to obsess over by next week. Remember when Tyler brought his pet snake to school? That was the talk of Westlake for all of 3 days. Zara appreciated his attempt to normalize the situation. At their table, Priya, Grace, and a few others greeted her with their usual casualness, though she caught them exchanging glances when they thought she wasn't looking. "Okay, I have to ask," Priya said finally. "Is it true your house has a bowling alley?" "No," Zara laughed. "Though my father did suggest putting one in the basement once. I talked him out of it." "See?" Priya said to the others. "I told you most of the rumors were ridiculous. The indoor basketball court, though." "That one's true," Zara admitted. "My father plays to relieve stress." The conversation continued, with her friends cautiously asking questions about her life outside school. Zara answered honestly but briefly, steering the discussion toward other topics whenever possible. It felt strange to suddenly be the center of attention after weeks of deliberate invisibility. Across the cafeteria, Madison sat with her usual group, but Zara noticed her glancing over occasionally, with an unreadable expression. The social calculations happening at that table were almost visible in the air. After lunch, Zara had a free period. She headed to the library to work on homework, but Mr. Patel, the chemistry teacher, intercepted her in the hallway. "Ms. Williams, do you have a moment?" he asked. "I wanted to discuss a special opportunity." Zara followed him to his classroom where he explained that the school was starting an architecture and engineering club. "Given your evident talent in design, I thought you might be interested in taking a leadership role." "That sounds great," Zara said, genuinely enthusiastic. "I'd love to be involved." "Excellent. We're hoping to partner with local firms for mentorship opportunities. Your father's company might be interested in participating?" And there it was, the real reason for the invitation. Zara's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. "I can ask him," she said neutrally, "but he's very busy with his current projects." Mr. Patel nodded quickly. Of course, no pressure. Your involvement alone would be valuable." As she left the classroom, Zara wondered how many more of these conversations she would have to navigate. People who now saw her primarily as access to her father's wealth and connections. After school, Zara found her aunt waiting in the pickup line instead of her father. She climbed into the car, immediately relaxing in Lisa's familiar presence. "Dad got held up in meetings again?" she asked. "Actually, he asked me to take you shopping," Lisa replied with a smile. "He thought you might want some moral support after yesterday's big reveal." Zara smiled at her father's thoughtfulness. "That obvious, huh?" "He knows what it's like to have people suddenly see you differently," Lisa said. After his first big development project succeeded, a lot of his old friends changed toward him. Some couldn't handle his success. Others just wanted favors. How did he deal with it? By staying true to himself and recognizing the people who treated him the same before and after. Lisa pulled the car onto the main road. "So, mall or that little boutique you like downtown?" "Actually," Zara said, making a decision. "Can we go to Riverdale? I want to visit the community library again." Lisa looked surprised but nodded. "Sure. Any particular reason?" "I want to talk to some of the people I interviewed for our project. The Planning Commission is considering actually implementing parts of our design, and I want to make sure we get the details right." In Riverdale, the community library was busier than Zara's previous visit. A children's reading program was happening. In one corner, while teens clustered around the limited computer stations, Devin, the teenager who had given Zara input on her design, was helping a younger boy with a math problem. He looked up as Zara approached, recognition dawning in his eyes. "Hey, design girl," he said. "Back for more community input?" "Something like that," Zara replied. "Our project is being considered by the City Planning Commission for actual implementation." Devin's eyebrows shot up. "For real? That's cool, but they never approve projects here. This time might be different." Zara hesitated, then added, "My father is William Williams." Devin stared at her. "The developer? The one who's been buying up properties downtown? And who just committed $50 million to community development projects," Zara confirmed. I didn't mention it before because I wanted honest feedback, not people telling me what they thought a rich person's daughter wanted to hear. Devin nodded slowly, processing this information. So what now? Your dad's going to build our community center? Maybe. The Williams Foundation is looking for projects to fund, and the Planning Commission is considering our design. But before anything moves forward, I wanted to come back and get more specific input. For the next hour, Zara sat with Devin and several other Riverdale residents, showing them the refined designs and taking detailed notes on their suggestions. The youth program coordinator joined them, offering practical insights about space needs and programming. As Zara listened, she felt a growing sense of purpose. This was what she wanted to do with her life: create spaces that served real community, needs that made people's lives better in tangible ways, not because her father was wealthy, but because design had the power to transform. When they finally left the library, Lisa looked at her niece with newfound respect. You really care about this project, don't you? It's not just for school. It matters, Zara said simply. These people need a space that works for them, not just what some developer thinks looks impressive. You're going to be a remarkable architect someday, Lisa said. Maybe even better than your father is a developer. The next day at school, Zara brought her updated notes and sketches to share with Madison and Alexis. They met during lunch in Ms. Chen's classroom to discuss the advisory committee. I went back to Riverdale yesterday, Zara explained, spreading out her revised drawings. Got more specific feedback on what the community needs. Madison looked surprised. You went back, even after everyone knows who you are now? Why wouldn't I? Madison seemed at a loss for words. I just thought, you don't need to do that anymore. Your father could just hire professional architects now. That's not the point, Zara said. The point is creating something that truly serves the community. And for that, we need their input, not just professional opinions. Alexis studied the new drawings with genuine interest. These refinements make sense. The multi-purpose rooms are more flexible now. As they worked, Zara noticed Madison watching her with a puzzled expression. Finally, Madison asked, Why do you care so much about this? About Riverdale? Your family doesn't live there. Zara considered the question seriously. Because communities, like Riverdale, rarely get the investment and attention they deserve. And because good design should be for everyone, not just for wealthy neighborhoods. But why you personally? Your father has a whole foundation that could handle this. Because it matters to me, Zara said simply. The same reason you care about the literary festival or your other activities. It's something I'm passionate about. Madison fell silent, seeming to truly consider Zara's words. After school that day, Zara attended the first meeting of the Architecture and Engineering Club. To her surprise, several students she barely knew approached her with genuine questions about design and architecture, not about her father or his wealth. One sophomore boy showed her his sketches for a sustainable housing concept. A junior girl discussed her interest in landscape architecture. Gradually, the conversation focused on design principles and creative ideas, rather than Zara's family connections. By Friday, the initial shock of Zara's revelation had begun to fade. Some students still tried to curry favor with her, but others had returned to treating her normally, either with the previous indifference or with the growing respect she had earned through her own merits. Madison's party was that evening, and Zara still hadn't decided whether to attend. Part of her wanted to avoid the inevitable awkwardness, but another part recognized it as an opportunity to reshape her relationship with her classmates on her own terms. At dinner with her father, she raised the question. Madison invited me to her party tonight, not sure if I should go. Her father considered this as he served pasta onto their plates. They were eating in the kitchen, as they often did when it was just the two of them, despite having a formal dining room. The same Madison who made your first weeks at Westlake difficult, he asked. The same, Zara confirmed. Though she's been different since finding out about you. Of course she has, her father said dryly. People often change their tune when they discover they've been punching up rather than down. Zara smiled at his phrasing. So you think I shouldn't go? I didn't say that. He twirled pasta on his fork thoughtfully. Sometimes in business I have to work with people who initially underestimated or dismissed me. It would be satisfying to reject them once the tables have turned, but ultimately unproductive. So you think I should go for networking purposes? Zara asked, only half joking. Her father laughed. I think you should go if you want to go. If there's something to gain, a potential friendship, a good time, a chance to change perceptions, then consider it. But don't go out of obligation or because you think you should forgive and forget. Zara nodded, appreciating his perspective. I think I'll go. Not for long, but enough to show I'm not holding grudges. That's my girl, he smiled, taking the high road while still protecting your boundaries. Later that evening, Zara stood outside Madison's house, dressed simply but elegantly in a dark green dress and her favorite silver earrings. The sound of music and laughter drifted from behind the massive front door. For a moment she considered, turning back. Then she remembered her father's words and her own decision to face this new chapter head-on. She rang the doorbell. Madison herself answered, looking genuinely surprised and pleased to see Zara. You came. I wasn't sure you would. Neither was I, Zara admitted with a small smile. Well, I'm glad you did. Madison stepped back to let her in. Come on, everyone's out by the pool. The party was exactly what Zara had expected. Westlake's elite students enjoying Madison's palatial home, with catered food, a professional, DJ, and even a small staff serving drinks. What she hadn't expected was how many people would approach her with genuine warmth. Priya and Elijah were there, providing familiar faces in the crowd. Grace introduced Zara to some students from the debate team who shared her interest in social justice issues. Even some of Madison's inner circle made attempts at friendly conversation, though Zara could sense the calculation behind their sudden interest. Madison herself seemed different, less commanding, more watchful. She circulated among her guests, but kept returning to check on Zara, almost as if concerned that she might leave. During one such check-in, Zara decided to address the elephant in the room. You don't need to worry about me, Madison, I'm fine. Madison looked startled. I'm not worried. I just want to make sure you're having a good time. Because you feel guilty about how you treated me before? Madison's carefully maintained composure slipped for a moment. Yes, she admitted, and because I realize I was wrong about you, not just because of who your father is, but because of who you are. The honesty surprised Zara. Thank you for saying that. I've been thinking about what you said, Madison continued, about why you care about the Riverdale project, about making good design available to everyone. She hesitated. My father always taught me that business is about maximizing profit, that community projects are for tax write-offs and PR. And what do you think? Zara asked. Madison looked troubled. I don't know anymore. Seeing how you approach things, it's different. You actually care about the people, not just the outcome. So do you, Zara observed. I've seen how much effort you put into the literary festival, making sure younger students get involved. That's different, Madison protested. That's about building my leadership portfolio for college applications. Is it only about that? Zara challenged gently. Madison was saved from answering by the arrival of Alexis, who excitedly reported that Ms. Chen had just texted her about the advisory committee's first official meeting with the Planning Commission. It's scheduled for next Wednesday, she announced. And get this, they're specifically requesting Zara's updated designs based on her additional community research. Madison looked at Zara with new respect. You really went back and did more work even after the project was technically over? It's not over until it's built, Zara replied. The weeks that followed brought significant changes to Westlake Prep and to Zara's place within it. The advisory committee became a prestigious assignment, with Madison, Alexis, and Zara working together to refine their community center proposal. Zara's father attended one of the Planning Commission meetings, not as a parent, but as a potential investor through his foundation. His presence lent credibility to the project, but Zara made sure that the community's voice remained central to the design process. At school, the initial fascination with Zara's wealth gradually gave way to respect, for her abilities and character. The architecture club flourished under her leadership, attracting students genuinely interested in design rather than just her family connections. Madison and Zara developed an unlikely working relationship, not quite friendship, but a mutual respect based on their shared commitment to the Riverdale project. Madison's sharp business sense complemented Zara's design vision, and together they navigated the complex approval process with surprising effectiveness. 3 months after the initial presentation, the City Planning Commission officially approved the Riverdale Community Connection Center for Development, with funding from the Williams Foundation and several other investors that Madison had helped secure. The groundbreaking ceremony was held on a bright spring morning. Zara stood proudly beside her father as he addressed the gathered crowd, which included Westlake students, Riverdale residents, city officials, and the media. This project represents the best of what can happen when we listen to communities rather than imposing our vision upon them, Williams said, and I'm particularly proud that it began as my daughter's school project, proof that sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places. Devin and other Riverdale teens stood nearby, excitedly pointing out features in the display model that had come from their suggestions. Madison and Alexis represented Westlake, with Ms. Chen beaming proudly beside them. As the ceremonial shovels turned the first dirt, Zara felt a sense of accomplishment, unlike anything she had experienced before. This wasn't just about getting good grades or impressing her teachers. This was about creating something real that would serve real people. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Madison approached Zara. "So," she said, "I've been thinking about college applications." "Already?" Zara asked. "We still have another year." "It's never too early," Madison replied, completely serious. "Anyway, I've decided to apply for programs in urban planning and community development instead of business." This surprised Zara. "Really? What changed your mind?" Madison glanced at the ceremonial construction site. "This did. Working on something that actually matters, that helps people. It feels different than just chasing prestige or money. My father would say that's the difference between success and significance," Zara observed. "Your father is a smart man," Madison acknowledged. "Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you something. My mother is chairing the school's scholarship fundraiser next month, and we're looking for speakers who can talk about educational equity. Do you think your father might—" "Madison?" Zara interrupted with a knowing smile. "Are you using our truce to try to get to my father?" Madison had the grace to look embarrassed. "Old habits," she admitted. "But actually, I was going to ask if both of you would consider speaking. Your perspective as a student is just as valuable." "I'll talk to him about it," Zara promised. "No guarantees, but I think he'd be interested." As they walked back toward the parking area, Zara reflected on how much had changed in a few short months. She had arrived at Westlake feeling like an outsider, endured bullying and isolation, and ultimately found her place, not through her father's wealth or status, but through her own talents and determination. The revelation of her background had opened doors, certainly, but what mattered more was what she had done once those doors were open. She had stayed true to her values, focused on creating something meaningful, and in the process changed not only how others saw her, but how some, like Madison, saw themselves. Her father was waiting by the car, deep in conversation with Commissioner Carter. He caught Zara's eye and smiled proudly. Not the pride of wealth or status, but the deeper pride of seeing his daughter becoming the person she was meant to be. Zara returned his smile, feeling a quiet confidence that had nothing to do with her family name and everything to do with the path she was creating for herself. Whatever came next, college, career, life's inevitable challenges, she would face it with the same quiet strength that had carried her through Westlake. She had learned perhaps the most valuable lesson of all, that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars or status, but in the positive impact you could have on the lives of others. And by that measure, Zara Williams was rich indeed.